Incredible encounter. Shy girl discovers lonely CEO in elevator. A surprising connection exposed. Emma glanced nervously at the flickering elevator lights as she was whisked up the skyscraper, heart racing in trepidation. At just 24, moving from her small Midwestern town to New York City for an internship at a prestigious tech startup felt surreal. Yet, beneath her dreams of proving herself lingered dark clouds of doubt. Her thoughts spiraled. What if she slipped through the cracks of corporate life, forever the overlooked intern? The elevator jerked abruptly, lights flickering violently. Emma felt her stomach drop. As the hum of machinery ceased, her breath quickened, joined by a rush of panic. Trapped. Was this the universe's way of amplifying her insecurities? The undeniable prospect of meeting the renowned CEO, Michael Wright, sent a jolt of conflicting emotions through her veins, excitement intertwined with dread. Before she could retreat inward, a voice rumbled beside her, startled. "Looks like we're stuck." It was him, Michael, with his immaculate suit and an air of solitude that left her awestruck. Yes," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. The initial panic began to dissipate as anxiety twisted into curiosity. He seemed more human here, confined in this small space. This doesn't happen often? Michael chuckled, an unexpected sound that contrasted his typically aloof demeanor. "Only when I'm in a rush." "What's it like?" She blurted out, uncharacteristically bold. "Leading a company?" It might have sounded naive, but curiosity propelled her. He shifted, gaze distant despite their proximity. "It's isolating sometimes." Emma's heart sank as she glimpsed an unexpected vulnerability lurking behind his icy exterior. "I can imagine," she empathized, her own loneliness echoing in the confines of the elevator. Thoughts of her family's sacrifices played on a loop in her mind, spinning the weight of her aspirations and the burden of expectations. As she spoke of her dream to make a mark, a thread of authenticity wove their conversation together, a thread she never could have anticipated. Then, subtlety shifted. The looming specter of financial rumors, whispers of sabotage within the company filtered through the startup's corridors. Emma's mind raced. Should she act? Was protecting the company's future a duty or a betrayal when loyalty meant hiding dark truths? She clenched her fists, considering the implications. "Emma?" Michael's voice broke through her turmoil. "What drives you?" The question hung, heavy and charged. Could she risk revealing her dreams while betraying her fears? Torn between the longing to impress and the stark reality of doubt, she swallowed hard. Her heart thumped with indecision, each second ticking louder than the last. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The elevator shuddered again, and shadows danced in the dim light. Emma felt her chest tighten. The pressure to choose between ambition and the chance of genuine connection was unbearable. Uncertainty swirled around her. Would revealing her dreams signal desperation or ignite a partnership? In this small, confining space, all she could think of was the stakes, the delicate balance of her ambitions and the moral dilemmas tied to them. A sudden jolt brought them back to reality, signaling their stillness was about to be shattered. Her voice faltered. Perhaps this moment could redefine who she was. Or perhaps it could lock her forever in the chains of her fears. As the elevator lights dimmed again, Emma realized she was standing on the edge of a precipice. Teetering between her past and an uncertain future. Would she leap into the unknown or retreat, surrendering to silence? As the elevator lurched back to life and doors creaked open, Emma felt like she was emerging from a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. Michael stepped out first, his presence a commanding force. Emma hesitated, vulnerability washing over her again. For a moment, she considered hiding her ambitions, shielding her insecurities under layers of professional decorum. But there was something in Michael's eyes that urged her to be brave. "Don't forget," he said, glancing back, that faint spark of connection still alive between them. "What drives you is what sets you apart." The weight of his words hung in the still air of the high-rise lobby, more impactful than she could have anticipated. As she walked further into the vibrant office space, filled with buzzing energy and cutting-edge designs, her heart raced with excitement and anxiety. Each step forward felt like a newfound personal conquest. The realization was daunting: she had shared a moment of honesty with one of the most powerful figures in tech. What if that fleeting exchange could propel her forward? Was there a way to harness this moment into something more tangible, career-defining? Back at her desk, Emma found herself lost in tangled thoughts. She skimmed through her tasks but could barely focus. Michael's piercing gaze lingered in her mind, and the prospect of sharing her ambitions began to evolve into a vision, an idea that overshadowed the noise of self-doubt. Weeks passed, during which she immersed herself in projects, fueled by both fear of failure and her desire to impress. Data analyses, brainstorming sessions, and late nights blurred together as she poured every ounce of her effort into her work. Yet the whispers of concern about suspected sabotage weighed heavily on her conscience. Emma mulled over the rumors while questioning her own loyalty. Was her silence an act of loyalty to a company she barely understood? Or was it complicity in harming those dedicated to genuine innovation? In the quiet recesses of the office during a lunch break, Emma found herself speaking with her colleagues about their plans, their insights, and their aspirations. How was it that she could articulate their ambitions so easily, yet remain tongue-tied when it came to her own? The dissonance gnawed at her. That afternoon, during a team meeting, the subject of recent turmoil and backroom chatter raised eyebrows. Emma glanced at Michael, whose brow furrowed slightly, revealing the strain of leadership under turbulent circumstances. It triggered something elemental within her. Perhaps it wasn't just about her dreams, but also contributing to a greater vision, helping navigate through chaos. Having made a decision, she lightly tapped her pen against the notebook, contemplating how to approach this delicate situation. Confrontation loomed large, and with it, the fear of misalignment with the company ethos. Yet something remarkable slipped into her thoughts: whatever the outcome, she would no longer suppress her voice. After the meeting, she approached Michael's office, heart pounding and conviction solidifying her stance. Emma had just stepped into the vulnerability of revealing who she truly was when a sudden knock on the door interrupted the air. It was the head of compliance, a harbinger of bad news, and tension surged through the air. Her moment might slip away before her very eyes. "Emma, I was hoping to talk to you about some suspicious transactions that have come to our attention," he began, and she felt her resolve waver. As a colleague shuffled inside, Emma was struck by the weight of her choice. A chance to speak out against the tide was blessed with an uncertain consequence. In that instant, she realized, her journey was no longer solely about her aspirations, but a commitment to integrity. Would she risk everything to speak the truth? Could she summon the courage to stand firm against the whispers, both external and internal? The upcoming confrontation with the compliance team would test not only her professional integrity but also the essence of her personal identity. The path to evolution lay ahead, uncertain yet thrilling, and she felt the stirring of empowerment. Would she find the strength to challenge, to show whom she had become, or retreat yet again? The potential for growth mingled with the stakes at hand. A crossroads awaited, and Emma knew she could no longer look back. Emma's world felt suspended in a moment of impending crisis. She watched the compliance officer's mouth move, words about transactions, audits, and discrepancies, but her mind was a tempest of conflicting emotions. The air seemed to thicken around her, amplifying her hesitation, but she remembered Michael's words. They echoed in her mind like a mantra: "What drives you is what sets you apart." Summoning every ounce of courage, Emma realized the time had come to seize control of her narrative. The stakes had never felt higher, her choice was no longer between simply surviving her role or standing out. It was about whether she would be complicit or an advocate for integrity. "Wait," she said, her voice steady while her heart raced. The compliance officer paused, intrigued by the sudden shift in her demeanor. "Can we discuss those transactions in detail? I have some insights that might help." The words left her lips before doubt could reach them, alive with purpose. For a moment, he simply stared, perhaps taken aback by her initiative. The other colleague in the room exchanged a glance with her as if challenging her audacity. But Emma maintained her gaze, unwilling to back down now. The officer eventually nodded, and Emma felt a surge of adrenaline wash over her. They convened in a small meeting room, and as the door clicked shut behind them, she realized she had tilted the balance of power in her favor if only marginally. This situation was new territory, a chance to navigate through the gray fog of suspicion with clarity. As they went over the particular details, Emma's mind pieced together correlations never before considered. Her analytical skills shone brighter than ever, revealing inconsistencies she had previously brushed over. In revealing their findings, she was not simply running from danger, she was shaping an identity that demanded respect. But a creeping fear accompanied her clarity. She thought back to the rumors in the office, the shadows of deceit creeping into the environment. If her assertions bore weight, they would shake the foundations of the lives intertwined in the company's culture. Would her boldness bolster her career, or would she find herself at odds with powerful adversaries entrenched in the status quo? These dilemmas circled like sharks in her mind. As the conversation progressed, Emma navigated each point with vigor, asserting her insights while weighing the social costs of her revelations. "I think we need to approach this with transparency," she urged, her palms clammy against the polished table. "If we want to solve this, we can't hide behind ambiguity." The officer's expression shifted as he engaged with her reasoning. He leaned in, interested, perhaps even impressed. She felt the embers of her initial fear beginning to spark into a fire of determination. This wasn't just about technical analysis anymore, it felt like a moral awakening. When the meeting concluded, Emma left the room invigorated yet reflective. She had shared her thoughts and opinions firmly, she had advocated for honesty. So why did a residue of guilt cling to her? Perhaps she was still cautious of the repercussions. Emma considered her next steps with a newfound clarity. The path was no longer linear, nor could it be dictated solely by company loyalty or ambition. The truth was far more complex, and so was she. That evening, Emma found herself staring at the reflection in her office window, her thoughts swirling with what she had learned about herself that day. What she saw was not just a woman navigating corporate challenges, but a battleground of ethics clashing against ambition. She had become intertwined with her choices and their consequences, and soon she would have to find out just how far that tether stretched. The shuffling noise outside her office distracted her, pulling her back to reality. As she glanced outside, she caught sight of Michael deep in conversation across the floor, an intensity in his posture that drew her attention. A question lingered, heavy and unspoken. Was he aware of the shifting landscapes of transparency and truth around him? She needed to find out. As she decided to take a step closer, the undertow of uncertainty loomed again. This time, she wouldn't be voiceless in the noise. The moment had arrived to assert herself, not only regarding the scandal but also in relation to what she wanted from her own life. Emma took a deep breath. It was time to engage directly with the heart of the matter. What lay ahead would either affirm her choices or unravel the thread she had started to weave into a new professional identity. As she walked toward Michael, she felt her pulse quicken. This conversation could change everything. Emma approached Michael with firm resolve. Each step toward him felt weighted with significance. It was no longer merely a discussion about work. Their impending conversation was layered with the complexities of shared ambitions and unspoken truths. She noticed how the chaos of the office dimmed in the periphery, replaced by the spotlight of her singular focus on him. "Michael," she said, her voice finding its steadiness, a contrast to the tumultuous thoughts racing through her mind. He turned, an eyebrow raised, curious yet cautious. In that fleeting moment, she could almost see the walls he had erected around himself, ones built from professional isolation and perhaps personal retreat. "I need to talk to you about the compliance meeting," she continued, surprised by the strength lacing her words. This was a pivotal moment that no longer revolved solely around the office scandal but encompassed her aspirations and integrity. If she wanted to truly grasp her purpose, drawing him into her world felt essential. "Sure, let us grab a coffee," Michael replied, a hint of intrigue dancing in his eyes. They settled into a quiet corner of the cafe within the building, the atmosphere cocooning them in a private realm. She felt the air thrum with unspoken tension as they awaited their drinks. Despite the bustling office just beyond the glass, this moment felt exclusive and rare. "I have my reservations about how we should move forward with those findings," Emma ventured cautiously after they received their coffees. "Transparency feels crucial, especially now." His expression shifted, revealing a glimmer of appreciation for her conviction. Michael leaned back in his chair, contemplation flickering across his face. "You don't understand how much weight that perspective carries," he said slowly. "Most people don't see the risks in taking a stand, they just want to keep their heads down. But isn't that what perpetuates the problems?" Emma challenged gently, her heart racing. "I want to make sure we're fostering a culture of honesty, not merely maintaining our positions." His silence was heavy, laden with years of navigating the corporate minefield. She wrestled with the intuition that she was stepping into uncharted waters not just for the company but for Michael as well. "What drives you?" he asked suddenly, breaking the tension. The question echoed Michael's earlier words. She felt exposed yet liberated, as if the very foundations of her career had been laid bare. Emma took a deep breath. "I want to create something meaningful, a workplace where ethics take precedence over ambition. I refuse to compromise that." The corner of his mouth twitched, perhaps a gravelly hint of a smile, yet a storm of emotion swirled in his dark eyes. Emma sensed the disconnect between the person she had confronted in the meeting and the one seated before her. Perhaps he was encumbered by the organization's expectations, but at that moment, she saw a glimmer of vulnerability, a longing for authenticity. "Maybe you can help change that," she proposed, realizing that this was her opportunity to turn their conversation into a partnership, a collaboration that could redefine the company's trajectory. "We can start by instilling accountability and rewarding transparency. If you'd back me, I know we could initiate a shift." For the first time, Michael leaned in, intrigue sparking between them. "You think I could help?" Some part of her wanted to pull back, to retreat from the intensity of their connection. But she needed to sustain this momentum, to challenge both of them to step into uncharted territory. "Yes," Emma asserted. "Together, we could redefine what this company stands for." There was a stillness between them, charged with the potential for change. Yet the stakes felt high, the unseen repercussions of such a shift pulsating like a distant warning. As they continued to talk, Emma felt a weight lift. Confrontation transformed into coalition. But the unsettling realization swept in that forging a new path toward honesty would not only alter her landscape but could also threaten the stability of their roles. With each passing minute, she could almost hear the clock ticking, as shadows of doubt began to stir again. What would their efforts ultimately cost? As their conversation deepened, she could sense Michael grappling with his own ambitions. Their common vision could ignite change, however, it would also expose them to the very risks they both feared. With a growing sense of purpose, Emma made a choice to dive headfirst into the uncertain waters before them. But just as she felt resolved, a shadow fell over the table. Someone she didn't expect was approaching, and their presence could derail everything. "Emma, can we talk?" called out a familiar voice, and the hint of warning in its tone wrapped around her like a vice. Emma looked up, startled. The figure looming over her was Adam, her former mentor and head of human resources. His presence seemed disruptive, a sudden jolt of anxiety swirling in the air where resolve had just begun to settle. "Now?" she replied, feeling the heat rise to her cheeks. Adam's disapproval had always felt like a hammer, poised to strike. She caught Michael's expression shift to one of guarded curiosity, the atmosphere around them thickening with unarticulated tension. "Yes, now," Adam insisted, his gaze darting to Michael before returning to Emma. "It's important." Michael's brow furrowed, a flicker of protective instinct igniting within him. Emma could sense the unspoken question on his lips: what kind of importance did this conversation carry? And was it worth the price of their moment? "Can it wait?" she asked, her heart urging her to hold on to this fragile connection with Michael. Adam's gaze hardened slightly. "I don't believe it can," he replied firmly. "We should discuss your recent recommendations regarding the compliance measures." There was an edge to his tone that suggested more than simple business. It felt like a reprimand cloaked in a professional guise. Emma glanced back at Michael, who offered an almost imperceptible nod, a silent encouragement to engage but also an acknowledgement of the risk that Adam's arrival presented. The stakes she had willingly stepped into now felt amplified, the path toward her vision at risk of being obstructed. "Sure. Let us talk," she stated, trying to imbue her voice with the confidence she felt waning. "Can you give me a moment?" Adam stood firm, arms crossed as though awaiting her compliance. She took a breath, forcing herself to rein in the emotional turbulence and regain her focus. "Michael and I were discussing, well, it's vital for me to support my colleagues in this effort. Maybe we could sit together?" "No time for that," Adam interjected. "In private, Emma. This is serious." The finality in his tone suggested there'd be consequences if she didn't comply. Suddenly, she felt trapped, as if the walls of the cafe had closed in around her. Michael shifted slightly in his seat, his unyielding gaze now sparked with concern. She was aware of his quiet questioning. Why was Adam so urgent? What was so serious, and why did it need to drag her away from a crucial conversation? "Let us go," she said, her voice steadier than she felt, rising from her chair as Michael remained seated, studying the interaction. A part of her wanted to scream for him to follow, but she knew that the path she was on had to be navigated carefully and individually, at least for now. Adam led the way to an alcove, the bustle of the cafe becoming background noise. Inside, the din faded, replaced by an electric silence. As soon as they were isolated, Adam wasted no time. "You have to understand, your suggestions about increased transparency won't just shake things up. They'll put us in the crosshairs. You're risking everything." Emma squared her shoulders, determined not to cower. "If I don't speak up, what kind of leader would I be, and does that align with what you've taught me?" He scoffed slightly, his brow furrowing deeper. "There's a difference between being a leader and being reckless. We're already under scrutiny from the board. You're putting your career at stake." Her mind raced with possibilities as she grappling with Adam's warning whilst feeling emboldened by her earlier conviction. But the shadows of self-doubt threatened to sway her resolve. "What do you really want, Adam?" she probed, not ready to back down. "Do you want to uphold the company's creed at any cost, even if it means sacrificing our values? Are you really okay with that?" He hesitated, then, momentarily caught off guard. His demeanor shifted, just the slightest hint of vulnerability breaking through the polished surface of his authority. "What I want is for you to succeed, but so many complications lie ahead if you push this too far," he fumbled, and in that brief concession, Emma sensed a powerful truth, one that spoke of broader implications than just herself. Emma took a breath, remembering Michael's earlier challenge to seek authenticity. "I can't turn away from this opportunity to redefine what success means, even if it comes with risks." As they emerged from the alcove, the world around her transformed back to its chaotic state. But now there was fire in her spirit. She caught sight of Michael at a nearby table, his eyes full of questions, respect, and maybe renewed determination. But before she could take a step towards him, Adam spoke again. Just think about what you're doing. You're not alone, Emma, but every decision has a consequence. Emma nodded, but she felt a sudden, overwhelming wave of determination seep into her bones. Her path was becoming clearer, but she recognized that alignment with others was just as critical as her individual vision. Closing her eyes momentarily, she prepared herself to face whatever came next. As she rejoined Michael, the intensity behind their previous conversation flickered back to life, but new complexities loomed in the background. She needed to navigate between the influences of Adam and the evolution of her partnership with Michael carefully. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern lining his voice. "Yes," she lied, not wanting to unravel the fabric of their tenuous alliance just yet. "We can still talk about our ideas, can't we?" But as Michael leaned in, the worry in his eyes deepened, and she struggled with a sense of foreboding. What kind of power struggle lay ahead? Would they be able to forge their vision amidst the pressures of the world around them? With every intention swirling in her mind, Emma knew she had to confront the implications of her decisions urgently. The real battle ahead wasn't simply against external expectations but a deeply personal challenge to uphold her convictions while maneuvering through the minefield that was her newly emerging reality. "Let us move forward," she whispered, her heart racing, aware that shadows were gathering, ready to pounce on her burgeoning intentions. Emma's breath quickened as she rejoined Michael, the warmth of his presence grounding her amidst the chaos swirling in her mind. She longed to dismiss Adam's warning as mere theatrics, but doubt clawed at her resolve. What if she really was risking everything? Michael leaned closer, offering support without pushing. "You seem off. What did Adam say?" Her heart twisted at the sincerity in his voice. "He's concerned about the recommendations I made regarding compliance. He thinks they're too risky." She rubbed the back of her neck anxiously, feeling the weight of Adam's disapproval settle in her chest. "Maybe he's right." Michael's voice trailed off, uncertain. "I mean, it could change everything." Emma's eyes narrowed, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "Change isn't bad. It's necessary if we want to do things right." The fire of her resolve ignited an icy edge, but it was an edge bound with trepidation. "I get that," Michael replied, cautious. "But maybe there's a way to enact change without making enemies. You've always taught me to be strategic. You think I'm being reckless?" Her voice was sharper than she intended, but the question was laced with vulnerability. He hesitated before replying, "No. I think you're passionate. But I don't want to see you burn out. We need to find balance, embrace the vision while also understanding the landscape." Just as he spoke, Emma noticed a group of co-workers across the cafe, eyes darting toward them, whispering with intrigue. She turned her back to them, embarrassment pooling in her stomach. They were witnessing her moment of indecision, a vulnerability she had hoped to shield beneath her composed exterior. "We need to talk about this," she urged, her hair falling to frame her face as she leaned in closer. "What if we combined our ideas? I don't want this to become only my fight. I want us to build something together." Michael's brow furrowed, the tension evident in his posture. "Together, yes, but what does that even look like right now? We're tangled in too many variables, and Adam's not going to make this easy." At that moment, Emma felt the external pressure morph into clearer understanding. Michael was right, they needed a strategy that wasn't just driven by her initial resolve but also included their collective insights. "Let us create a plan," she said decisively. "We outline the risks, weigh them against the potential benefits, and then decide how we want to present this to Adam and the board." Michael's gaze brightened, a flicker of admiration in his expression. "A sound approach. I'm impressed that you're willing to not only fight but also strategize. But it has to come from genuine values, not just numbers or compliance checks," she insisted, every word heavy with conviction. "I want our recommendations to inspire, not just abide." As they spoke, Emma could feel the fear and uncertainty receding, replaced by a growing clarity of purpose. Adapting her vision without compromising her integrity was a challenge she was now willing to face. Let us start tonight. We can lay everything out, establish our foundational principles and then build our argument, she proposed, already envisioning the structure of their collaboration. It'll be more than just a pitch, it'll be a manifesto for our vision. Agreed, Michael said, his eyes gleaming with the spark of shared ambition. But then the flicker of concern returned. Still, what will Adam's response be? We're stepping into dangerous territory. Emma nodded, the gravity of their choices dawning on her. I can't ignore this anymore. Whatever it takes, we must be willing to stand firm. But I need you to trust that I have your back, as you have mine. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, she felt invincible, two allies ready to face the uncertainty ahead. But just as confidence surged within her, Emma recalled Adam's words, echoing like a distant alarm. She couldn't ignore it. The stakes were escalating, and the path forward felt littered with fraught encounters and difficult decisions that could alter their future irrevocably. As she glanced over Michael's shoulder, she caught Adam's silhouette re-entering the cafe, a figure of authority wielding an unspoken weight that threatened to bear down on her burgeoning aspirations. With his return, the cocoon of private determination they had built began to unravel. Emma swallowed hard, anxiously bracing for impending confrontation. Let us make our vision unshakable, Michael said, breaking through her thoughts. No matter what happens next, we push forward. Emma felt the adrenaline pumping through her veins, a tangible pulse of resolve. But as she prepared for the impending clash between her ideals and Adam's expectations, the enormity of what lay ahead crashed over her. The conversation with Adam had only been the beginning. How far would she go to uphold her principles? And at what cost? Deep within, she sensed a storm brewing, and she couldn't quite tell whether it would fuel her progress or drown her ambitions. She took a steadying breath as Adam approached, knowing the moment of reckoning was upon them. What was he truly prepared to challenge, and how would she stand when the dust finally settled? The atmosphere shifted palpably as Adam's presence loomed over Emma and Michael, grounding her resolve to the floor like an anchor dragging behind a ship. The warmth of collaboration they had ignited felt starkly vulnerable under the scrutiny of his authoritative gaze. She could feel the pulse quickening in her temples, the urge to either flee or confront rising dangerously within her. Emma, Adam began, an edge of formality coating his tone, could we have a word? He gestured towards a quieter corner of the cafe, the din of conversation fading seemingly with every step they took away from Michael. Sure, Emma replied, her voice steadier than the quaking in her stomach. She cast a brief glance back at Michael, a silent plea for support. He nodded slightly, a reassuring presence even as the physical distance between them grew. Once they were concealed by a wall of potted plants, the direction of the conversation shifted dramatically. Adam leaned against the wall nonchalantly, but Emma sensed the tension beneath his surface demeanor. I've been hearing some rumors about your recommendations, he said, his eyes narrowing slightly. Risky isn't quite the word I'd use. Irresponsible comes to mind. His words stung, injected with disbelief and disappointment. Indignation burned within Emma. She wasn't about to let him label her beliefs and intentions in such dismissive terms. I'm not going to back down just because something seems difficult on paper, she replied, crossing her arms defensively. It was a stance that echoed both her precarity and determination. It's not about backing down, Emma. This isn't just your project anymore, he countered, his tone even yet pointed. It's our company's reputation at stake. You're smart enough to realize the intricacies of compliance. I urge you to think through these recommendations carefully. I am thinking of them carefully, she fired back, a newfound conviction brimming in her tone. My goal isn't to undermine our reputation, it's to elevate it by challenging the status quo. If we don't evolve, we risk stagnation. Perhaps what's needed is a fundamental shift in how we approach these challenges. Adam watched her intently, the flicker of surprise evident in his eyes before a mask of neutrality descended. Passion is admirable, but it must be tempered with caution. You're not just a cog in the machine anymore, you're steering it. There it was, his acknowledgement of her potential, yet it felt like a veiled warning too. Emma's heart raced with the dual desire for approval and rebellion. "And I intend to steer it toward a better future," she said, her voice dropped to an unwavering whisper. "But I won't do it without guidance. That's why I'm working with Michael. We both believe in this vision. Your collaboration is commendable, but you must understand the consequences of your choices. You also need to answer to the board and to me," Adam replied, the weight of authority returning to his voice. "They want justification beyond idealism. Numbers, projections, facts." Emma felt the tension between them thicken, the reality of her ambitions clashing with the constraints of his expectations. "So, you're saying I should compromise?" She leaned closer, her breath catching in her throat. "What if compromise means losing sight of what truly matters to us?" The challenge hung palpable in the air, a personal battle unfolding not only in words, but in unspoken convictions. Adam's expression remained unreadable, and Emma realized his facade masked a deeper tumult that reflected her own internal conflict. "Consider your next steps wisely," he finally said, straightening to his full height. "This isn't high school. There are real stakes here, and if you miscalculate, it won't just hurt you. It could impact a lot of people." As he turned to leave, the silence filled with the echoes of his implications. Emma steadied herself, struggling to wrap her mind around the myriad of threats that had appeared. Would her push for change provoke the inevitable backlash? Could she hold her ground without losing what she had started to build? Returning to Michael's side felt like gathering the last fragments of her composure. Her heart raced not just with fear, but with an exhilarating sense of possibility. If she could transform this encounter into a powerful opportunity for change, perhaps Adam's caution could fuel her resolve rather than smother it. "Did he bite?" Michael asked as she returned, scrutinizing her with careful observation. "More like he shoved me into the deep end," Emma smirked, incredulity mixed with adrenaline as her mind spun with strategies. "But I think I can swim." With renewed vigor, they began to formulate their plans: risk assessment, credibility, and a narrative that could maneuver through the board's scrutiny. But doubt festered beneath the surface. Adam's parting words echoed ominously: miscalculations could derail everything. As they leaned over a shared notepad, Emma's intuition whispered that this was only the beginning. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message from a board member, and the anxiety twisted in a knot. Did they know something she didn't? What impending gate would she have to breach next to safeguard her vision? The stakes were climbing. If she wanted to push forward, she would need to ready herself for a confrontation that would expose both her vulnerabilities and her strengths. A new reality awaited, and she felt the fraying edges of her confidence unravel as she prepared for the next challenge. Emma stared at the buzzing screen of her phone, heart racing as the board member's name flashed ominously across it. Anxiety clawed at her insides. Each tick of the clock echoed like a countdown, straining every fiber of her being. She could almost hear Adam's voice in her mind, a reminder of the stakes at play and the imminent repercussions awaiting her. "Everything okay?" Michael asked, his brows knitting together. She could tell he sensed her heightened pulse, and she knew it was time for transparency. "It's a message from a board member," Emma admitted, forcing her voice to remain steady despite the turbulence within. "I think they're onto us." "Onto our plan?" Michael's eyes widened, concern flickering across his features. The potential derailment was palpable, and Emma felt the loss of control feel like a vice squeezing around her confidence. Taking a deep breath, Emma fought the temptation to spiral into panic. "We can't let fear direct our actions. We have to anticipate their questions and, more importantly, have answers ready." With determination igniting her resolve, she leaned over the notepad, pulling in all the strategies they had brainstormed earlier. As they reviewed their risk assessment, she noted that empirical data would be essential to counter skepticism. They needed numbers that spoke louder than the shadow Adam had cast over her vision. The precision of facts could be the armor that deflected the arrows of criticism. Michael, what projections do we have on the market trends related to our recommendations? She asked, diving into the task with renewed energy. His fingers flew over the keyboard as they pieced together a narrative. Emma plotted their response with an analytical approach, determining what stakeholders might question ranging from financial implications to compliance risks. But as the cohesion of their strategy grew, so did a creeping doubt. What if their projections weren't enough? What if she couldn't present her vision in a way that connected at a fundamental level with the board? The pressure was rising, morphing into a tempestuous storm within. Emma, look, Michael interrupted, noticing the distant expression in her eyes. We've done the research. Your vision isn't just idealistic, it's grounded in real possibilities. Just remember, questioning the status quo is part of progress. His words sank in, wrapping around her like a comforting cloak. She had spent so long navigating the delicate balance between ambition and caution, and here it was, ready to be wielded as her competitive edge. But with ambition came an intrinsic fear the risk of failure lurked around every corner. All right, she said, her voice growing steadier. Let us take a moment to reframe this. Instead of seeing their questions as threats, we need to view them as opportunities to refine our ideas further. What can we learn from their concerns? Fueled by this reframed mindset, Emma pressed on. They crafted responses not only to anticipate objections but to highlight the transformative potential their ideas could yield. She felt her leadership qualities bubbling to the surface. It was about more than just defending her position, it was about inviting dialogue, showcasing collaborative strength, and presenting an authentic version of their vision to the board. After hours of strategizing, Emma felt a surge of adrenaline as she prepared to send out emails with their actionable insights. But just as she hit send, her phone buzzed again, a meeting request from Adam, to discuss her recommendations in detail. The request loomed over her like a thundercloud. It was inevitable and unnerving. She wondered whether this would unravel the progress they had made or provide the platform to assert her authority over the project she was passionate about. Would she rally or falter? Steeling herself for the conversation, Emma found herself at a pivotal moment, where she would need not only knowledge but a resilience that transcended her fears. The upcoming meeting would be both a test and an opportunity, a chance for her to redefine expectations, perhaps even dictate the terms of the conversation. With every fleeting doubt replaced by a burgeoning determination, she whispered to herself the mantra she had developed: "This is my vision. I can steer it." Emma's heart raced, not with trepidation, but with the certainty of someone primed to seize an opportunity. As she locked eyes with Michael, a shared understanding passed between them. "Let us nail this," she urged, feeling the thrill of challenge course through her veins. They were in this together, and while fear was a human element, resilience was the choice she would make. In the coming hours, those choices would culminate in a decisive moment, and she knew one thing to be true: it wasn't just about safeguarding her vision anymore, it was about taking the reins of her own story, a story written not just in response to challenges but one that boldly claimed its place in the narrative of their company's evolution. She turned back to her screen, but not before glancing at Michael with a steady gaze. "We're ready. Let us change everything." As they parted ways for the night, a single thought thrummed through her: what seismic shifts would tomorrow's meeting unleash? Emma barely slept, her mind alive with multiple scenarios, and the fear that everything could change in an instant loomed large. The morning light filtered through the office windows, illuminating the battlefield prepared for today's confrontation. Emma sat at her desk, meticulously arranging her notes, each paper a testament to her late-night efforts. The buzzing of her phone had transformed into an insistent reminder of the meeting ahead. She felt the familiar coils of anxiety twist uncomfortably in her stomach, but there was a novel sharpness to her resolve. The hours spent strategizing with Michael had forged a new steel within her, one that resonated with confidence rather than fear. With a quick touch of her thumb, she opened the meeting agenda. Each point was a foothold in the mountain she needed to climb, data to substantiate her assertions, projections to manage expectations, and solutions to preempt objections. The knowledge she possessed was robust, and she reminded herself it was her duty to present it effectively. As she prepared, a kernel of insight stirred in her mind. Today would not only be about the presentation of ideas but about establishing herself within the larger narrative of the company, a narrative Adam had long overshadowed. Arriving in the conference room, Emma set her laptop on the polished table, glancing at the array of faces before her. The board was assembled, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. There was Adam, arms crossed, an ever-watchful shadow looming over the proceedings. Emma's heart quickened, but deep within, a flicker of determination sparked. She wasn't here to defend her vision against scrutiny, she was here to champion an innovative path forward. As she initiated her presentation, her voice steadied. The first few slides glided smoothly, her passion for the project kindling the air around her. The statistics rolled off her tongue with clarity, and she noticed subtle nods of acknowledgement among the board members. Each positive reaction fueled her momentum, and with each passing moment, the initial swirl of self-doubt attributed to Adam's presence began to dwindle. Then came the questions, sharp and pointed, as she had anticipated. Adam's inquiry regarding financial implications struck first, laden with challenges she had prepared for. Emma, with these projections, how do you propose we mitigate the risks associated with a shift of this magnitude? Taking a breath, she navigated through her slides, presenting a counterplan that had drawn on their team's collective acumen. Her ideals were backed by data, each figure a shield deflecting Adam's impending blade of skepticism. In this exchange, she felt weight shift, she was no longer just responding but confidently steering the conversation. Absolutely, what we need to consider is not just the risks but the potential for growth, she replied, her voice resolute. By implementing these changes, we position ourselves to lead rather than follow. The air in the room shifted, and with it, Emma realized the power of her stance. The scrutiny wasn't simply an obstacle, it was the crucible that would forge her into the leader she aspired to be. She could feel the tide turning as she swept through each concern. The questions transformed from their initial incredulousness into constructive dialogue, each exchange a collaborative effort to refine her vision further. Halfway through, another board member challenged her on competitive analysis. What metrics are you using to assess the success of these initiatives against industry standards? Emma leaned into the moment, her previous hesitations replaced with an eagerness to share. Great point, she said, launching into a well-researched overview. The moment was pivotal, each metric she provided fortified her credibility further. Here was a chance for her to showcase not just her knowledge but her strategic foresight. But as she gestured toward a particularly impactful projection, she caught Adam's gaze, a piercing look that seemed to bore into her with unyielding disapproval. Her earlier confidence wavered briefly, an unwelcome knot of self-doubt twisting again at the base of her throat. Was he still questioning her abilities, or was he now recognizing her strength? As the conversation continued, Emma realized a larger truth: the vision she sought was not just a professional ambition but a deeply personal assertion of her potential. This meeting was not a battle with Adam, it was about solidifying her authority as an innovator within her company. Wrapping up the presentation, she invited final questions. I welcome any further concerns. They only serve to make our strategy stronger. The air crackled with tension, the board members exchanged glances, and Emma held her breath, ready to embrace whatever uncertainty remained. And just then, a new realization washed over her. What if this was the catalyst for her journey toward true leadership? As she stood before them, she felt the tide of change surging, not just for the company, but for herself as well. The board members deliberated quietly, and Emma felt a deep sense of anticipation blooming in her chest. The ground was shifting beneath her, and she knew one thing for certain: she was on the brink of an extraordinary transformation. But before the board could respond, Adam scoffed lightly, his voice carrying weight, a reminder of the struggle that had forged her. What remains uncertain is whether we can trust this new direction. Emma's heart thudded. The battle was far from over. How would she defuse this lingering doubt and solidify her vision? The meeting was only the beginning, and she would need every ounce of ingenuity to combat the veiled opposition that lingered in Adam's words. Resilience would no longer be a choice, it would be her weapon. Tomorrow would reveal how deeply the waters of change could run and how fierce the currents that sought to pull her under could be. As Emma emerged from the conference room, exhaustion washed over her, an amalgam of adrenaline and exhilaration coursing through her veins. The meeting had transformed her, she could feel it in every fiber of her being. She hadn't just faced her foes, she had asserted her presence, a pivotal step from intern to influential force within the company. The board had listened, really listened. Their shift from skepticism to strategic inquiry was transformative. What had once felt like a treacherous climb now settled into a sturdy foundation upon which she could build. She dared to envision that what began as fears of incompetence had evolved into proofs of leadership capability. She had conquered her doubts. Days turned into weeks, and the aftershocks of the meeting reverberated throughout the company. Emma saw tangible change ripple through the halls of her workplace. Her recommendations were gaining traction, gradually transforming from the whispers of rebellion to the echoes of corporate reform. The board embraced her suggestions, implementing strategies that fostered a culture of transparency, a dream she had nurtured since her tumultuous days in the elevator with Michael. Every step felt monumental, a consistent confirmation that the path she was forging was more than mere ambition, it was integrity manifest. "Emma, have you seen the latest metrics?" Michael approached her desk, the excitement in his eyes infectious. "Our numbers are trending positively. The board has taken to your approaches better than we ever hoped." His enthusiasm reignited her own. "Really? The transparency initiative is being embraced? That's incredible." With each compliment, her confidence solidified, no longer reliant on fleeting affirmations from superiors. Emma had claimed her space not just as an ambitious intern, but as a recognized key player who contributed to the company's ethos. The fluctuating feelings of self-doubt that had stalked her since stepping into the corporate scene had dissipated. She was no longer the random face in the office, she had transformed into a beacon of change. Adam had shifted too. He was no longer the looming threat but an unexpected ally. After initially resisting the changes, he engaged in compelling discussions, offering additional insights that helped refine their strategy further. Emma found herself both inspired and challenged by his professional demeanor. The tension that had once felt insurmountable transformed into a healthy discourse. One afternoon, in a hallway meeting, Adam surprised her by saying, "You've changed the narrative here, Emma. Respect is earned, and you've earned every ounce with your initiative." Her heart swelled at his acknowledgement. Yet, instead of feeling arrogant about the triumph, Emma felt gratitude. Their encounters had fortified her sense of self, and now, she could face any hurdle with knowledge, conviction, and the melting away of isolation. Months later, Emma stood at the top of the building, the city sprawling beneath her like an endless sea of opportunity. This was more than a view, it was a panorama of her journey, one filled with uncertainty, where each obstacle had molded her into a relentless advocate for integrity and progress. She glanced back at her reflection in the glass, a sure expression greeted her. Michael joined her, watching the sunset dip below the skyline. "Your influence on this company is palpable, Emma. You've shifted how we operate. It's extraordinary." "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied genuinely. Their partnership had been foundational, a supportive framework that bolstered her aspirations. But it was time for Emma to embrace the individuality of her path. This was not merely about changing the company culture, it was about claiming her identity. She had become a visionary not from acting against opposition, but by working in collaboration with those around her. As twilight kissed the skyline, the weight of past insecurities felt remote and trivial. Emma had achieved transformation, she had harnessed her fears into a constructive force that resulted in professional triumph. Each moment of vulnerability had been a stepping stone toward this profound understanding of her worth and purpose. The narrative she wrote wasn't just corporate, it was her own. Now, with gratitude for her struggles, she resolved to use her voice beyond these office walls. This was the moment to lean into her calling, aiming toward outreach initiatives that encouraged underrepresented voices in technology. Empower others to break the mold. "Let us get to work on that outreach program," she said with renewed determination to Michael, and he nodded in enthusiastic support. "It's time we provide opportunities for the next round of dreamers and doers." Her heart swelled, she breathed in deep, filling her lungs with the expansive energy of New York City. It was time to move forward, armed with resolve, empowerment, and the promise of what was to come. And now, dear viewers, this is where you come in. You need to subscribe now to witness more incredible transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm so that these stories continue reaching those who need them. Comment your thoughts, reactions, and theories on Emma's journey and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative conclusion. Don't wait even one more second, support the channel. Your engagement fuels the stories that can create change.